Before you spend another quarter, you need to watch this. Right now, rare Washington quarter dollars are being discovered in everyday pocket change. Coins that look completely normal but are secretly worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Most people ignore them, and that's exactly why they keep losing hidden money without even knowing it. In this video, we're revealing the top 3 most viral and highly searched Washington quarters that collectors are racing to find right now. And the shocking truth is, one of these valuable coins could already be sitting in your pocket, waiting to be discovered. So get started. First up, you might have held it in your hand, spin it without a second thought, or maybe it's sitting right now in a jar somewhere in your home. But what if I told you that an ordinary-looking 1991 Washington quarter could secretly be worth far more than just 25 cents? Not just a little more, but in rare cases, hundreds, even thousands of dollars depending on hidden details that most people completely overlook. This is not just another coin. This is a story of hidden value, minting mysteries, and the kind of overlooked treasure that collectors dream about finding in everyday pocket change. And today, you're about to see this coin in a way you never have before. The 1991 Washington quarter was struck at the Denver Mint, which is indicated by the small D mint mark on the front of the coin, just next to George Washington's ponytail. At first glance, it looks like any other quarter, featuring the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the iconic eagle design on the reverse. Millions of these coins were produced, over 600 million in fact, making it seem incredibly common. But here's where things get interesting. Not all 1991 quarters are created equal. In fact, some of them contain rare errors, unusual characteristics, or pristine conditions that can transform them from everyday currency into highly sought-after collector's items. Now imagine this, a coin so ordinary that people ignore it daily, yet one small mistake during creation at the mint could make it worth a fortune. That's exactly what happens with error coins. And the 1991 Washington quarter has its share of these fascinating minting errors. One of the most valuable types is the double die error. This occurs when the coin is struck more than once, slightly misaligned, creating a doubling effect on the lettering or design. If you notice unusual thickness or shadow-like duplication in the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," you could be looking at something very special. Another rare and valuable error is the off-center strike. These coins appear misaligned, with part of the design missing or shifted. While this might seem like damage to an untrained eye, collectors see it as a unique and desirable feature, especially if the date and mint mark are still visible. The more dramatic the misalignment, the higher the potential value. But errors aren't the only thing that can make this coin valuable. Condition plays a massive role. A 1991 quarter in everyday, circulated condition might only be worth face value. However, if you happen to have one in uncirculated or mint state condition, meaning it has never been used and still retains its original shine, it could be worth significantly more. Coins graded MS-65 or higher by professional grading services can command premium prices, especially if they exhibit strong luster, sharp details, and minimal imperfections. And then there's the ultimate dream scenario: finding a coin with a combination of rarity and perfection. Imagine discovering a 1991 quarter with a rare mint error, perfectly preserved over decades, untouched by time. Coins like these have been known to sell for hundreds, even over $1,000 at auctions, depending on their uniqueness and grade. What once passed through someone's hands as spare change suddenly becomes a collector's prize, a hidden treasure hiding in plain sight. The real thrill lies in the hunt. Every time you receive change, every time you go through old coin collections or forgotten drawers, there's a chance, however small, that you might come across one of these valuable quarters. Most people never look twice, but now you're different. Now you know what to look for. That tiny D mint mark, the subtle doubling in the text, the unusual alignment, the condition that seems just a little too perfect. These are the clues that separate an ordinary coin from an extraordinary find. What makes this even more exciting is that coins like the 1991 Washington quarter are still out there, circulating, waiting to be discovered. Unlike rare ancient artifacts locked away in museums. These treasures are accessible to anyone. You don't need to be a professional collector or spend thousands of dollars. You just need awareness, patience, and a bit of curiosity. Because sometimes the most valuable things are the ones we overlook every day. So before you spend your next quarter without thinking, take a closer look. That small piece of metal could carry a story, a mistake, or a rarity that turns it into something far more valuable than you ever imagined. The 1991 D. Washington Quarter isn't just pocket change. It's a reminder that hidden treasures still exist in the modern world, and they might already be in your hands. Next up, you've probably seen it. Maybe you've even spent it without thinking twice, a simple 1967 Washington Quarter with no mint mark. It looks ordinary, almost forgettable, just another piece of pocket change lost in time. But what if that exact coin, the one most people ignore, was actually part of one of the most unusual and mysterious periods in American coin history? What if that missing mint mark isn't a mistake, but a clue that could lead to hidden value, rare variations, and collector demand that most people never even realize exists? Because the truth is, the 1967 Washington Quarter is not just another coin. It's a product of a crisis, a silent rebellion against hoarding, and a fascinating chapter in the world of coin collecting. To understand why the 1967 quarter has no mint mark, you have to go back to the mid-1960s, a time in the United States faced a major coin shortage. People were hoarding coins, especially silver ones, believing their metal value would soon exceed their face value. This created a nationwide circulation problem, and the U.S. Mint had to act fast. In response, they made a bold and controversial decision. From 1965 to 1967, all mint marks were removed from coins entirely. That means whether your quarter was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, it carries no identifying letter. The goal? To stop collectors from hoarding coins based on mint location. But ironically, this decision made coins like the 1967 quarter even more intriguing decades later. At first glance, the 1967 Washington Quarter features the familiar image of George Washington on the front, designed by John Flanagan, and the eagle on the reverse. But unlike earlier quarters, this one is made from a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of 90% silver. That change alone marked a turning point in U.S. coinage history. Yet despite being produced in massive numbers, hundreds of millions, there are certain 1967 quarters that stand out in ways that could dramatically increase their value. Now here's where things get truly exciting: error coins. Because even though mint marks were removed, minting errors still occurred. And these errors are where the real hidden treasures lie. One of the most sought-after types is the double die error. If you look closely at the words "liberty" or "in God we trust," you might notice a slight doubling or shadow effect. This isn't damage, it's a rare minting flaw that collectors actively search for. A clear double die can turn an ordinary 1967 quarter into a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Another fascinating error is the off-center strike. Imagine a quarter where the design is shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. While most people would assume it's defective, collectors see it as unique and valuable, especially if the date 1967 is still visible. The more off-center the strike, the rarer and more desirable the coin becomes. Then there are clipped planchets, coins that appear to have a portion missing, almost like a bite was taken out of them. These occur when the metal blank is improperly cut before striking. Again, what looks like damage is actually a rare production error that can significantly increase value. But beyond errors, condition is everything. A 1967 quarter that has been heavily circulated might only be worth face value. However, if you find one in uncirculated condition, sharp details, original mint luster, no visible wear, you could be holding something much more valuable. Coins graded MS-65 or higher are especially desirable among collectors, and high-grade examples have been known to sell for impressive amounts at auctions. And then there's the ultimate collector's dream, the special mint set, SMS coins. In 1967, instead of traditional proof coins, the U.S. Mint released special mint sets with higher quality finishes. These coins often have a satin-like appearance, sharper strikes, and fewer imperfections. If you come across a 1967 quarter with an unusually clean, almost polished look, it might be from one of these sets, and those can carry significantly higher value, especially in pristine condition. What makes the 1967 Washington Quarter truly fascinating is that it represents a moment in history when the rules were changed. No mint marks, new materials, experimental finishes. It's a coin born from necessity, yet filled with mystery and potential. And the most exciting part? These coins are still out there. They're not locked away in museums or private collections. They're in circulation in old jars, hidden in drawers, waiting to be rediscovered. Think about that for a moment. Somewhere, right now, a 1967 quarter with a rare error or exceptional condition could be sitting unnoticed, passed from hand to hand, ignored for decades until someone like you decides to take a closer look. That's the thrill of coin collecting. The idea that treasure doesn't always come from ancient times or distant lands. Sometimes it's right there in your pocket. So the next time you see a 1967 Washington quarter with no mint mark, don't dismiss it as ordinary. Look closer. Examine the details. Check for errors. Notice the condition. Because hidden within that simple coin could be a story, a rarity, or even a value that far exceeds 25 cents. In a world where people chase big opportunities, sometimes the greatest discoveries come from the smallest things. And this coin, this overlooked piece of history, might just be one of them. Next up, you've probably seen it before. Maybe it's hiding in your pocket right now, a quarter that looks slightly different from the rest, with a strange dual date, 1776 to 1976, and a drummer boy on the back instead of the usual eagle. Most people glance at it and move on, thinking it's just a commemorative design with no real value. But what if that exact coin, that ordinary-looking bicentennial quarter with no mint mark, hold a hidden story of history, celebration, and in some rare cases, surprising value that collectors are constantly searching for? Because this is not just a coin, it's a piece of America's 200-year celebration. And for those who know what to look for, it could be far more than just 25 cents. The story begins in the mid-1970s, as the United States prepared to celebrate its 200th anniversary of independence. To mark this historic milestone, the U.S. Mint decided to redesign several coins, including the quarter. Instead of the traditional eagle reverse, a special design featuring a colonial drummer, created by artist Jack L. AHR, was introduced. Every bicentennial quarter carries the dual date 1776 to 1976, symbolizing the nation's journey from independence to modern times. And here's where things get interesting. Millions upon millions of these coins were produced, making them incredibly common at first glance. But not all bicentennial quarters are created equal. If your coin has no mint mark, it was struck in Philadelphia. During that time, Philadelphia coins typically did not carry a mint mark, which makes them seem even more ordinary. But within this massive production, there are hidden variations, rare errors, and unique conditions that can turn a simple bicentennial quarter into a collector's dream. The key is knowing exactly what to look for. One of the most exciting possibilities lies in mint errors. These are the unexpected mistakes that happen during the coin production process, and they're where the real value begins to emerge. For example, double die errors can appear on bicentennial quarters, where the lettering or design looks slightly duplicated. If you notice unusual doubling in Liberty or In God We Trust, you might be holding something incredibly rare. These subtle details can transform a common coin into one worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Another valuable error is the off-center strike. Imagine a bicentennial quarter where the design is shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. While most people might think it's damaged, collectors see it as a unique piece of mint history. The more dramatic the misalignment, especially if the date is still visible, the higher the value can climb. There are also coins struck on the wrong planchet, meaning the metal blank used was intended for a different coin. This results in unusual weight, color, or size, making the coin stand out immediately. These types of errors are extremely rare and highly sought after, often commanding significant prices at auctions. But beyond errors, one of the biggest factors that determines value is condition. A worn bicentennial quarter that has been in circulation for decades might only be worth face value. However, a coin that remains in uncirculated condition, with sharp details, brilliant luster, and no signs of wear, can be worth much more. Coins graded MS65 or higher are especially desirable, and pristine examples have been known to sell for impressive amounts. And then there's something many people don't realize. Not all bicentennial quarters are made from the same materials. While most were struck in a copper-nickel clad composition, special 40% silver versions were also produced for collectors. These silver coins were primarily included in special mint sets, but some have found their way into circulation over time. If your coin has a slightly different shine or weight, it might be worth taking a closer look. It could be one of these more valuable silver issues. What makes the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial quarter truly fascinating is that it combines history with opportunity. It's a coin that was created to celebrate the past, yet it continues to create excitement in the present. It reminds us that even the most common objects can carry hidden stories and unexpected value. And here's the most exciting part. These coins are still everywhere. They haven't disappeared into museums or private collections. They're still being passed from hand to hand, sitting in old jars, hidden in drawers, waiting for someone to notice them. Most people overlook them completely, but now you see them differently. So the next time you come across a bicentennial quarter with no mint mark, don't just spend it without a second thought. Take a closer look. Examine the details. Check for errors. Notice the condition, because within that small, ordinary coin could be something extraordinary, a hidden treasure that's been waiting decades to be discovered. In a world where people search for rare opportunities in distant places, sometimes the greatest discoveries are already right in front of us, quietly waiting to be seen. And that 1776 to 1976 Washington quarter, it might just be one of them.